But this is the May 19th, 2021 Community Coherence call, and welcome everyone. And I'm going to invite Linda to do an attunement and bring us into this field of coherence, this field of resonance, this unified field moving toward World Unity Week. So Linda, you're on.
Thank you, Julie. Morning, everyone. Let's be very mindful of where you are. Just close your eyes, being very present with our community. Just feeling the field around you and widening to the field around all of us here. And knowing that as we breathe into this field, it is breathing back into us. Moving us into greater coherence with this community and the larger community. And looking towards World Unity Week, the community of so many people that we haven't met yet. But we can feel them and they can feel us because the field is bringing all of us together. Just breathe that in. Feel your heart expand. And as you exhale and inhale, knowing that each one of us here is doing our part for the good of the whole. And that we honor and respect what is coming to us from this field, this unified, one source, one heart, one mind, the wholeness of all. And in that consciousness, we can relax, knowing that we are doing our part. Each individual, one person at a time, holding a community together with love and more love and more love. So feel that love that you have for yourself and for everyone here, and for all of those who are aware of their aliveness in the field. And sense that gratitude moving through you and spilling over. Let's take another breath, and with that gratitude, coming back to our circle. A little bit expanded and a whole lot of love. Welcome back. Hi, Shelley. I see Nanshuni, Iya. I'll see a couple people pop on when we're in the midst of spreading our energy to the larger group. So thank you all for being attractor fields.
Linda, when you invited us to have this unified breathing in this unified field and having the field breathing back to us, it twisted my mind, because what I experienced in that moment, someone just knocked on my door. Let me see if I can ignore them. I think it's probably UPS. But the breathing is as this field, this unified field, this undivided wholeness of who we be, breathing into us and breathing us in. It was like this no separation in the language when they're breathing into us. It's like, oh wait, we're breathing it and it's breathing us. It was this really lovely place that took me. So thank you for that. That was very nice. So yes, welcome everyone who tuned in after we began the attunement. Last week we worked on World Unity Week, and there was several things that came through, and I just want to bring us back where we were, because we were talking about the connection field and really moving the theme of all of our offerings during that week to unity and to World Unity Week. And that's an easy step for all of us, hosting different hours. And then there were a few people who said, oh, I'll offer this or I'll offer that, which felt like wonderful. We can find spots in the connection field where you can offer something special for that week, which is really good. So let's continue that invitation of what would be special offerings during that week. But then we evolved. We moved from this expansive awareness of being unity and that conversation. And we went into the action, because the theme is let's do something. So we went into action, like what's the doing? And then at the end, Nahid brought us back to saying, expanding our awareness of being, the doing is something, it is doing something. And yet what popped that I thought was exquisite last week was an idea of the 7 days of doing, inspired action from this place of our beingness, from this awareness. And so we really, after the first part of just kind of feeling into this and listening to the deeper threads, we really landed on this 7 days of doing good is what we landed on, if you remember. 7 days of doing good. And what does that mean? And it came from Linda saying, why don't we have a unified action with one day, all of us plant a tree? I think there's something like that, Linda. Was that what you said?
I'm looking at my notes. Yeah, oh, well, planting the field with the field. So planting something.
Planting something with that field. So I just want to drop that in to this. We had a tagline that kind of popped, but it was 7 days of doing good, unified action for the good of the whole. And it became this thematic thing of 7 days of everyone coming in. What does that look like? I'm going to drop that question into this collective field today. Welcome, Miranda. And what does that unified action look like? What is 7 days of doing good? Unified action for the good of the whole. What would be those actions? What would make a difference? What would be meaningful? What would feel good to this community if we created that 7 days? So with that, I'm just going to open this up and invite all of your voices forward.
Amani did put in the chat, she's not turning her camera on, but 7 days of service. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, are we still frozen for you?
I'm not frozen.
You must be having some problems.
Yep.
Yeah, I hope she can hear us. Huh.
No, your faces are moving. Some faces still look frozen. All of you guys at one point was looking like you was frozen. Even Julie, you was talking, but your face had no reflection, no inflections, just frozen in place, all of you.
Okay.
And some of you still look like you frozen. John looked like he's frozen. His face is down in some kind of face, like somebody polished his face, crafted in this old jaws are hanging. Sorry.
No, that's just who I am.
And Tony has the right idea. Yeah, he can make faces at you now and you'll never know. So go for it, Tony.
I was really interested. I thought all of you guys got frozen in place. Oh my God. Good morning.
No, good morning. That must be your Wi-Fi connection. So we'll just, hopefully you can hear our voices, and we'd love to hear your voice, and everyone is welcome to jump into this
I
idea.
do. What I wrote in the chat, I don't know if you saw it. My whole thing is, if people can build relationships, I think what you tried to do is good in the last year. But what I feel is that there's no relationship building. Everybody comes into the good of the whole, and they feel like they know what it is to be in relationship. And I feel that most of us on this platform know nothing about relationship building. I mean, we know something from our theories, but we don't know relationship building across culture, within this larger community. We have no idea who's here and what that relationship looks like. That's just that's what I observed in this good of the whole community. You talk about good of the whole, but in order to have a good of the whole, or feel that is attractive feel, you need good relationships. You don't have good relationships.
So
That's just my observation.
that's brilliant. Yeah, what would that look like in terms of creating 7 days of doing good for World Unity Week, or perhaps something very different? What would that look like?
I think when people can talk about who they are, where they come from, what they bring to the field. Who are you? I don't know any of you. I know some of you, but I don't know you. I know you bring your theories, you bring your philosophy, but I don't know who you are. What is your attractive field? Where do you come from? What was your experience? Where do you come from? And everybody shows up here seeking something. And all of us at different levels of consciousness. So we assume that we all is having the same conversation. And I feel that we're not. Because you can't have the same conversation if you don't know who you're talking to. We're in these boxes. We don't know each other. We're just in these boxes. Some of you I have been able to connect with on very intimate levels, but most of you, I don't know who you are.
So I love this, Ia. I love the opening here. How or what steps do we need to take to get to know each other even more? We try to do that here on these calls. We listen to each other, and we share what's coming from our heart.
Some of the things I've seen, sorry.
Go ahead. Hey, that's the question. It's like how.
Some of the things I've seen work. Some of the things I've seen working in the Zoom community is some of the places that I'm in relationship with, is when people can come together in these smaller circles and create this invisible kind of talking circle and just share about who they are, get a feel for who you are, what are you bringing, what's going on, what's stirring for me right now, and where my interns are bringing this connection field. Do I really understand what a connection field is? Do I understand what a field of energy is? Do I know how to work in a field of energy? Because like I said, we show up here with assumptions that we have a language, you use words, but are we all understanding that language? Do we understand how to bring that language into coherence? As opposed to jumping at things and walking, overshadowing what comes up. Can we set in relationships and build in relationship? For example, I have disagreements, and I won't name where I had those disagreements, but those disagreements grew me because I could come back to them. I could come back because that person held up the mirror and it triggered an old trauma that I had. So I could come back to the old, I said, oh, thank you. It may not feel good when it's coming. I may even have some resistance and some reaction. But when I sit back and look at that and take it in, I can say, oh, I didn't know that old trauma was there. Thank you. For example, I was dealing with a situation where the woman used bitches to describe herself. Inside of my body was a pain that was so painful. It was grief. When I went back into that pain, it had ancestral relationship. It had, when African women were sold on the auction block, enslaved African women was named bitches and whores. And this word gets carried on. So what it does, it gets stuck in our bodies, in our emotional bodies. And you may be talking to me and I'm like, really? And I'm having a reaction. But you would say, yeah, where is that coming from? That's not what I'm saying. But it's up to me to understand what mirror you share it held up for me and how I can walk back and look at that. And it may be something that we talked about years ago, but all of a sudden it has a new flavor to it. It has a new ring to it. It has new information for me if I'm willing to sit with it. And we must be willing to sit with it. Because I think we bring our theories and our language, but have we practiced everything that we bring here at this platform? Because we talk about the ancient, but ancient wisdom was about actively practicing and mastery. So anyway, that's what I have. That's my observation.
So I'm going to circle back to thank you, Ia. And what you're saying is so valuable and important. How do we weave that into 7 days of action, to build relationships in World Unity Week? And what I'm hearing is that we need to start right here. How can we go into a larger group if we don't really know each other here? So what can we do in the next few weeks? Because World Unity Week is only a few weeks away. Maybe we could do something like what you're suggesting on Wednesdays, so that we're building the comfort of really getting to know each other. And then how do we bring that into World Unity Week? I don't have the answer, so that's why I'm putting it out there. So thank you, Ia.
The wisdom that I appreciate that came forward is bringing us back to connection and what that really means in the connection field. And really taking full responsibility for ourselves and what's going on. And then, like you're saying, Ia, perhaps learning new skills. How do we create greater intimacy? How do we connect? And, the focus is on relationships, but it's also our relationship with the earth, our relationship with the plant and animal kingdom, our relationship with God, creator, source, our infinite field of possibility. There's a lot about relationship here, and we could just make it be about people, as World Unity Week is about bringing a lot of cultures together. It could just be cultural related or relationship with humans related. And Good of the Whole has always been about the relationship with all those things, the earth, like planting the trees, like Linda said. So I just really love this idea of intimacy and relationship and the interconnected, interdependent, undivided whole that we are. And what is that? How does that express in the world? So thank you, Ia, and I just invite anyone to jump in with anything that's popping. When Ia was talking, we got hearts from Claudia and Miranda. If anything is moving, please jump in.
I'm gonna jump in on that thread. Yeah, I appreciate that so much, and the message of like looking in the mirror and being triggered. And I think every single one of us has had a moment where we've looked in the mirror and been triggered in a conversation, in a situation, in any kind of expression. And I love that idea of announcing that it could be an inner problem, right? But also to have a way to come past that inner space and be more collective and be more in a unity space and unity consciousness. And I think we overcomplicate a lot of things. And as far as Unity Week, I had mentioned, I think not this week or not last week, but the week before, about having something as simple as a meet and greet, a stop in place where people can come and say, hi, this is who I am, this is where I came from, this is what I'm about, this is my intent. And possibly have breakout rooms that we can have smaller amount and then do a recap at the end. And that's just to have a level of intimacy so that we really are seeing what it is that we want to achieve here, and work on self, but also to uplift all of everyone, making sure that everybody does feel included, and be willing to really hear if people feel included or not. You know, I and hear it, and know it and feel it, because inclusion is a really big problem. I think overall, and just I think keeping validated, like I like that, Amani. Keeping it simple, like it doesn't have to be overcomplicated, like a simple meet and greet, a stop spot where all of the noise can be out there and you can just simplify and just be in each other's presence and learn who each person is and ask your questions. And if there's anything that you feel you need to say or need to know, like that can be that safe sacred space, and it's just super simple. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So thank you. It's lovely to see all your faces. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be able to share and express myself. Thank you.
Well, I've been here for about 8 months now, and of course, language. Start this out by saying language is very important, and I'm not an expert. Anyway, I've been in the community for about 8 months now, and you know, I resonate better with some of you than others. We're all different. We all operate in different ways in different places and have different philosophies. Mine is a lot. My personal philosophy is a lot different than what a majority of you have, and that's fine too. But you know, I feel like I have a fairly good relationship with everybody. Maybe it's not in depth, but how deep does it need to be functional? You know, as far as trying to carry our message out, and you know, as far as carrying our message out, I run around like a fool on a hill as a matter of routine, riding unicorns and throwing glitter on everybody. You know, and you know, just telling jokes and just having a great old time with the world. But I suppose I can hide behind the guise of being an old guy and get away with it. Whatever. I'm still able to. But you know, at any rate, I think it's really important that we get this stuff out into the world, however we can, and I think just gathering as a community, we're already expressing a unified approach to the situation, because I know, you know, I was a political activist for a very, very, very long time, and I'm an information junkie, and I can find enough information in the morning, 5 minutes in the morning, that'll fry your heart for the entire day. But I don't do that anymore. You know, when it gets noisy outside, I just go into heart resonance and come and meet some of you people, whether I'm on Zoom or not, and just have a fine old time with it. So, again, I don't know how much knowledge of each other we really need to be effective in trying to bring this message out. Because, I mean, something as simple as just a smile to someone at the right time, that can speak volumes. I mean, that can be, an hour-long conversation, just boom, just like that. And there's so many things, one of the things that I discovered I wanted to introduce to you folks, our topic this week in the fire is nutrition and nurturing. And I have this little trick that I came up with, and is sort of bidirectional nurturing. And what it is how when someone says to you in the morning, well, how you doing today? Well, try this one out. Best day so far. It's 4 words. It's really positive. It's easy to remember. It feels good to say. It feels good to hear. And it changes every day. And little tricks like that, getting stuff like that out into the world to help people relate to each other. That in itself, is just an expression of the power of small things. And there's more, but I'll let others talk. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. John here. So, relationship is limited if I am not vulnerable. And what allows me to be vulnerable? Well, first of all, there's a desire, a longing inside of me to know myself without my defenses, without my pre-existing systems, processes, and history that holds me back out of my fear of being known to myself and to others through whatever that might be. And so someone offered this morning projection, and the majority of my projections are a way to not face the parts of myself. I think it was already said. So what is my relatability? What is my relationship? Are my relationships based upon places where I feel safe? Or am I willing, and I think Ia, you said this, am I willing to look at what my outside world is that's giving me the information about the places that's not healed inside of me, and be vulnerable enough to name those, to say those, and therefore no longer do I bring into my life people or events that continue to show me the places that I don't want to face, and therefore I can't relate with my full self if I stay in those stuck places. So people will come into my life, sometimes very uncomfortable, and yet it's so much easier for me to have them hold my woundedness rather than to incorporate that into my fuller self. And then when I do, when I'm that vulnerable and I name my vulnerability in a group or just to another person, then there's a healing that takes place and a relationship takes place. Others no longer come at me with something, but support me in my vulnerability, because everyone feels that love, painful sometimes, frightening sometimes, but when the message comes through clearly that I've been able and had the courage to be vulnerable with, I form a relationship with that person or those people. And so this possible idea of having, because I agree, we don't often enough, I don't know that many people in my vulnerability, and I'm learning more and more to stay in that space in my heart and in my expression. It's a learning process. It's a growing process. And, so how can we be an example of that direct experience of allowing others to see our vulnerability in order to make the connection around those more sensitive places within us? And therefore, I do trust that the energy field that expands from that type of relationship and connection is not only a model for others, but the field itself gets expanded. It's kind of long-winded, but I'm complete.
I would love to hear more voices, and what occurs to me of what's emerged so far is how beautiful it would be to even just record this conversation and it be the offering. This conversation is really an important exploration, I think, for everyone, and really beautiful. So thank you for that. But love to continue to hear all your voices. Welcome, Connie.
Yes, Amani. Yes, I will read that since she's having a little technical things. But in the chat, if you don't want to read along, this is what Amani is saying. I hear a subtle invitation within the direct invitation to do some relationship work. As dominant culture people, we are influenced by the power over paradigms that formed the cultural dysfunctions we are heirs to. It is long, well, I don't know what IMO is. It is long past the time to do the personal work, to unpack privilege, dive deeper into the impact of generational trauma that we are all conduits of. It is reasonable that we are as we are culturally. And if we are here to do something for the good of all, let's learn about how and why there is a historical impact that modern culture translates and transfers into our relationships. Our historical impact is real. And my path calls me to learn about this, to hold space and facilitate ceremonial dialogues within council formats, providing tools of healing, expression, and recalibration. I love that, Imani. So I'm putting that out into the field to hear some responses. And I think if I can add what Amani is saying, what Ia is saying, what I'm hearing, and what I am feeling is that, yes, as Ia just said, yes, this is it. I my heart keeps breaking every day when I see what humans are doing to, it's man's inhumanity to man, what we're doing, you know, and like what's happening with the Israelis and the Palestinians, and my heritage being a Jewish woman, and with the land of Israel, it's so painful. This is not who I am. And I think we need to speak up and say the things that we see that are wrong are wrong. And, you know, there will be other people who say that what I'm saying is wrong. And I don't know where that relationship bridge can happen. And I think that's our work for the greater good of the whole. And this does get very deep. It gets, you know, really into relationships. Do we bring this into World Unity Week as our doing something, as our taking action, as our, what do we call it? Our activism? Because if it isn't understanding relationships and how we have treated others because of how they have treated us, and it goes back and forth and back and forth, how do we heal that within the 7 days of keeping it simple? You know, and is there a space in this relationship building where it's okay not to have a relationship with someone or a group of people who, you know, where do we start saying, all right, I'm going to give my energy to someone who really only wants to kill me, but I want to give my energy to that and see if I can build a relationship? Do we do that, or do we focus ourselves with people who we can be more productive and do something with? So that's a question that I'm having. It's like, how much do I want to build a relationship with people or a group of people that at this point I you know, I can't understand? And maybe that's it. It's like, let's try to understand them, but are they doing that work as well? So you know, when we're talking about building relationships and ending eons of man's inhumanity to man, you know, that we are such a warring species, as Don will always tell us, I think we know what to do, but how do we do that on a larger scale, or on a deeper, meaningful scale? And yes, let's keep it simple. Let's keep it in small groups, one-on-one, so we get to know each other, and let's be vulnerable. And then what? How do we bring that out into the world? So I'm complete, because yeah, I saw that you had unmuted yourself.
One thing, you asked some very valid question. What I've learned in my years of being and looking at the trauma that I carry in the world, and being able to live out of that trauma, irrespective of who accepts that walk. And a lot of times, what I'm saying is that the way I see the world, most often my community don't see the world as I see it. That's okay. If I'm the leader, if I'm the one carrying the light energy, then that's okay. Is what matters is that I do enough work on me, that I shine in a way that I'm approachable, that I'm not operating out of my old paradigm language of us and them, because sometimes we're doing the us and them without even knowing that we're doing the us and them. We put our labels on and we say we operate out our labels as opposed to our humanity. And when we operating out our labels, we're operating beyond, outside of that human, what the human spirit is calling for. The fact that I'm a therapist means that I studied to be a therapist, but my humanity came with my experiences. When I look at my experience from an indigenous perspective of enslaved African, I have to look in now and say, okay, I can accept that happened. What is the history that led to that? What do I really know about this story? And I think there are many stories right now that we have misinformation about. even here in these United States, in terms of how we set together. We make assumptions that because we can utilize certain premises or certain words or certain ways to look at the world, all of us analytically, we use the right words, but how we build that internal relationship that can hold that. That internal relationship makes me who I am. That internal relationship is an invitation to others to be safe. I cannot feel safe if I'm still listening to an us and them language. Even here in the good of the whole, if I hear us and them language, I cannot feel safe. If you come and say, okay, how we talk about Unity Week, Unity Week is one piece. What do we want to hear within ourselves so we can be in coherence and in unity with the whole? What is it that we individually need to create and come and calibrate within the self that will allow me to show up in more authentic ways of being on the planet? That may be the only work that I can do within 7 days. But if I can do that in 7 days, that will make me a better person to walk in the world. If I can do that in 7 days, look at my own pieces that keeps me out of relationship with just the people that are here. Then if I can walk that walk, I will know how to walk in unity with the rest of humanity. At least I will build that walk. Because that walk is calling from a 500-year dismantling. We dismantled that opportunity to have those relationships. Now we're going back. I'm just using 500 because that's easy. But we've been out of relationship with each other for a long time. Then it talks about Israel. I have another Jewish friend, and she's struggling too. That we have to know the history behind all of these things that came about on this planet. If we don't know the true history and that separation, then we cannot create the unity in that relationship.
I'm going to try to talk. I don't know if I'm going to have enough signal. One of the things that I think that Good of the Whole could do is provide a resource library for people to dive in deeper on their own. Just drop that in the mix.
I'll make this brief so others can speak. Yeah, Monty, that's a good advice. I've been struggling with my family, my biological family of origin. They post on Facebook, I respond. I post on Facebook. If they don't agree with what I post, they don't respond. So I have a challenge there. Do I have the capacity to change their limited point of view? Is that hubris on my part? And so I've been really looking at that, and I don't even want to call it a struggle. It's really an amazing experience for me, and I think it's really a representation, a reflection of our whole dualistic world right now. My family members that are absolutely vehemently saying that immigration is killing us, and the view is so strict. No matter how much love I bring in, it's probably not going to make it it's not going to make a difference. And so if we could talk about Israelis and Palestinians, for a lot of them, nothing is going to change that. If we look at Black culture versus white culture, for a lot of people, nothing is going to change that. So then I go into my heart and I say, I can only do what I can do. Now, I think 7 days of unity is, what can we do? What is the best that we can be in the moment? Because we are not going to change the world as a whole in 7 days. We know that. I'm not going to change the world in my lifetime. I've probably tried for numerous lifetimes. And yet, I'll go back to what Tony does, is that beautiful piece of put a smile on someone else's face or whatever, from the very simplest relationship building pieces that we can do. And all of these major issues of 500 years of enslavement, of thousands of years of one group against another. It feels like that's our major issue. And yet, really, what can I do? What can I do to heal those thousands of years of separation in myself? What can we do together? Can we trust each other enough to come into the unified field, to resonate with each other, to become a whole within at least the 20 of us, in order to send that vibration out? You know, what's the say? I see the bumper stickers around Boulder here all the time. Think globally, act locally. That's really, that's, I'm writing a book right now kind of about that. It's kind of like, how can I love myself and one other person? How can I not be the I that is separate in any way? But this message that we have in Good of the Whole is seen as tree hugging, granola munching, poppycock by a huge population on planet Earth. They don't even want to listen. And that's fine. Everyone has an energy field. And yet, I'm baffled, and it breaks my heart. But every time my heart's broken, it allows me to become more vulnerable. Can we hold each other, every one of us, in a place in our broken hearts? Can we be vulnerable enough with each other to share our broken hearts in order to allow the light and the love in and be shared with each of us? That's the unity. That's the unity. I want to hear your story. I want to hear where your heart's broken and been broken, because the act of a broken heart, regardless of how it happened, is the same broken heart. I'll feel safer and more vulnerable myself when I'm in the field of others that are sharing their brokenheartedness, because that's where their love rests. I'm complete.
I'm not sure how this would work, but to me, the idea of catalyzing experiences would be something that would really be helpful to focus on, because we're not going to be able to do everything we want to do in 7 days, and maybe not communicate the message we want to communicate in 7 days. But if we can help people develop a process of their own catalyzation of where we're trying to go, to something that'll last, something that they can take with them, something that's experiential, that they can put into their lives, that means more than the words, and I don't know how that fits, or if it even does, but if people can't feel it and see it in their own lives, then what does it really matter? Now, don't get me wrong, I love all of the heady spiritual talk, at least to a point, but the fact matters that, yeah, learning to live in your heart, just like you just put in chat. I think that for me, that's the most important thing in the world, and then everything else sort of takes care of itself. But at the same time, when I see all the foolishness going on in the world, I'm tempted to to make a judgment and call fouls. But you know, I'm only human, and worse yet, I'm a Taurus male. So you know, I'm doing the best I can with what I have to work with. No bull. Always a joke in there somewhere.
Love you, Tony.
Hi, everyone. I just like to make a few observations and comments. The Israelis were surveyed, and they said that they believed that they would be willing to have a first nuclear strike. You know, we've been talking about, can we pass some kind of rules in every country that you will not have a first strike until you're attacked? Well, the majority of people in a survey in Israel said that they cannot wait for a first attack. That if the Hezbollah and so on, and the group achieves a bomb, their constitution basically says their goal is to wipe out Israel. I mean, that is their goal. It's their constitutional goal. And Israel, the part of their motto is never again. They're not going to let the Holocaust happen if somebody is threatening them. And that's one of the reasons why Netanyahu, I guess, is saying that he's not going to stop at this time. Because it's only a matter of time before the so-called the other side gets the kinds of weapons now that are becoming undefensible, when Russians and others supply everyone with weapons that are so destructive that that's part of the strategy. The other area, another hot spot is China and Taiwan now. And China, you know, is saying they own part of the South China Sea, and they're extending their reach. They've got their Navy and airplanes out and so on. And they say they're not going to accept Taiwan continuing to have independence. And it is a very rapidly growing hotspot. Those are only two of the areas that could blow up any time. And when it does, if you know the 250 of the world experts on nuclear weapons were surveyed by a joint Congress, U.S. Congress, and they sent a report to our president, and they said that someone will push the button within the next 10 years. So time is of the urgency. So the question comes up, is there some answer? No one seems to have an answer at this point. It's not just this group that is struggling along. I don't know of anyone. If anyone does, please let me know of anyone who has a strategy to delay the possible use of not only the possible, but the predicted use by 250 of the world's experts sometime in my lifetime, even though I'll be 85 next month. Sometime likely in your lifetime means that our kids, the people we love, are not going to have an opportunity. The chances, they say, are more likely than not that someone will push the button unless we do something. Einstein did tell us the one thing we could do. Nobody's particularly listened to him. They listened to his E=mc² formula so that 9 countries know how to make bombs. But no one listened to his answer. He said, the only way we'll create world peace, we have to teach ourselves a newer way of thinking, where people communicate and cooperate rather than compete with one another. He didn't tell us how to do that. He just said we have to do it, but he did say we have to create a different language. The language we have is one of the reasons why we continue to have, as Linda says, you know, and as John says, we're stuck in our ideas. We are not going to change people by talking about our differences. So I think the answer is we must begin to look at our similarities. Can we look at how we agree? And I think the issue is, can we ask ourselves, what is it that we can agree on? I think we can agree that we all agree that murder is not appropriate. It's one of the basic 10 commandments. And the group that I've been working with has said there are 4 things we can agree upon. Is we all believe in happiness, enough, love, and peace. No one's against happiness. No one is in favor of sadness. everyone thinks that people have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Some of our ancestors said that's one of the biggest things that's important when they created our Constitution. Of course, they didn't give women the right to vote, and they gave blacks only partial. They made them partially humans, but nevertheless, they came up with the global idea that everyone should be entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I wrote this book here, if you can see it. I don't know if you can show it, if it'll show on the screen or not. It's, I don't know if that will show up. Apparently it's not coming up through, but it's called World Peace in 3 years or less, or else. World Peace in 3 years or less, or else. It's got a wonderful endorsement by Jack Canfield and by Brian Tracy and some other people. And basically it suggests, this is my approach. And it comes in part from a professor at Harvard by the name of Ivry, who's a professor who talks about the importance of reconciliation and the importance of negotiation. Instead of confrontation, we need to have negotiation. His idea is, you are not, when you have people on different sides of the fence who disagree, you're not going to get them to agree. And that's what we're seeing here. He said, what we have to do is someone has to go into the balcony, and you have to look down at both sides and say, you know, each side has something to offer. And what is it that each side can offer? And if that's the area that people can begin to negotiate and come together and talk, as long as you bring together to talk about their differences, people are not going to change because we are so emotionally engraved in the way we think, whether you believe in abortion or you don't believe in abortion, or whether you believe that your God is the right God. You know, the words that our ancestors created are all words that divide us into us and them. If you think about it, our patriotic flags, every national anthem celebrates its victories over somebody else. Our flags, our political symbols, our religious symbols, God, just the word God says that, and there are thousands of gods. There's not one God for everybody. There's thousands of gods, and each God is your tribe's God, and it says your God is the right way or not. So I think the issue is, can we create a movement, a 1 million member movement? That's my approach. And that's basically my suggestion. And it's not going to happen in 7 days, but it begins with the first step. So Neil Donald Walsh said, and he gave me this title for the next book that I'm working on. We need a 1 million member movement of groups like this group. We have the example of a place that doesn't exist in many other places, where people can come together and express their love and differences in an environment of love. So, you know, what we're trying to launch is a movement of groups like this around the world that we can offer to people free. The people who need it are those who cannot afford it. So it has to be offered free. And I think this is what you've done here. That's what Shelley and Julie have actually created over the last number of years, a place where people can come. And we've demonstrated here a place where people can come and express themselves. If we can replicate this in some way, and I think we can. I think that's what Einstein said, but we need some new language. The words that we have, as long as we keep with those tribal words, we need to invent new words. So our group has invented over 100 new words, and we'll make them available if people are interested. But until we develop a new way of thinking where we cooperate instead of compete with one another, instead of saying who's going to dominate. And, you know, we've had some other ideas. We think that one of the problems is women have been, their energy for nurturing have been suppressed by male energy. So that's one area that we need to address ourselves. So I think we need to begin to look more directly at what are the common areas we can agree on, and then how do we get something started. And that's our goal. We're getting some backing. I think I've talked to some people like Jack Canfield and others, and as I say, they've given wonderful endorsements to the idea. But we are the group who, and one of the reasons I participate is because we've demonstrated something here that is very unique. It's not, if you look in the outside world, you don't find something where people can come together. And there are other groups. This isn't the unique group, but it's probably maybe 2 or 3% of the population. But somehow I think that's the way we start. And I think that's the way we need to address ourselves. How can we begin to identify what is that we can agree on, that we can get up to the balcony and not ask who's right or wrong, but realize that I've interviewed over 200 individuals. You can look at some of these interviews on my website if you like. And of 200 people, not a single person was against world peace or against happiness and so on, certain kinds of things. And they all said they would be interested in doing something if they only knew what to do, but none of them had any answers. So I think we've got to come up with an answer that no one has. And I think we have it here. It's somehow we've got to get people together in groups like this where people can come together and duplicate this so that there are thousands of these groups around the world. 2 alcoholic men started AA because they had a model that worked. And now AA is anywhere around the world and it's free for everybody. If you go on a cruise, they will announce the symbol and people will go into a stateroom or whatever, and you can go to an AA meeting. I think that's the model that we need to look at and say, we can do that. But if you have any other better ideas, I'd like to hear them. And I think it's very good that, we talk about as the things we do, but I personally don't know that we're making a lot of traction, that we're bringing people together in a unified system that can spread rapidly around the world. Time is of the essence. It's not something that can wait for 30 years. If the prediction is someone will push the button or there'll be a mechanical accident, you can't have 14,000 bombs tied together in a computer system where one person has the ability to wave his hand and pull a trigger that will release all of these at one time and have absolutely no defense against that. So that's where I think we've got to stop at this point. I'll stop. That's sharing my heart and my ideas, my passion. My passion is that I have 4 great-grandchildren, 7 wonderful children, 4 great-grandchildren, 7 wonderful children, and I'm concerned that they're not going to live to their adult lives or maturity unless we do something dramatic and quick.
Thank you, Don. I'm going to drop in, follow that thread of we can't change the world in 7 days. And John saying we can't change others. I can't change them. It's like, and which all is language of separation again. And what I was hearing as you said, we can't change the world in 7 days. I heard we can. We can change the world in 7 days. And how can we do that? And what I saw was a 7-day silent vigil of holding the frequency of love and unity together. What would it look like if we literally had a 7-day vigil that anyone could come into, whether you call it a prayer vigil, whether you call it whatever. But if we were focusing on the frequency of unity and holding the frequency of unity for 7 days together, we will change the world, at least for those 7 days. And this is science. This is Lynn McTaggart. This is the experiments with the coherence initiatives. This is proven what happens when 2 or more come together and hold this higher frequency together. So I'm just dropping that in. I don't know if anybody's interested in doing that. I think it would be an amazing experiment to spend 7 days as a collective, 24 hours a day, coming in, different time zones, different people hosting, light a candle, put it in front of the Zoom room, people coming in prayer, meditation, and holding a higher level of frequency of this. Connie would call it the trust frequency. A lot of times, go Connie, we call it love, unity, but we know this higher levels of frequency make a difference, creating resonance in the field, creating greater coherence around the world. We have the capacity to change the world in 7 days, and it will impact those who we perceive. Because I was going to say, I was listening to Ia when John was talking, and John said, do I have the capacity to change their limited point of view? And I heard Ia going, whoop, that's separation language right there, John. I could just hear that of like, we perceive other as different. We perceive other in their limitation. We perceive. So what would it be like if we didn't? So I just wanted to drop that in. And we can continue conversation. I know Nanchuni was unmuted for a while. Shelley unmuted.
I'd like to say something on that subject. You're talking my language, Julie. And one thing I think we have to understand is the physics of the whole thing. I mean, underlying it is the physics of we create what we put our attention on. That's not woo-woo, that is the observer effect. And so if we want to affect the collective, I feel that that's a key piece. We need to stay our focus on what we know is real, the field, the unity of all things. And as far as I'm concerned, our experiences have served us, all of them. There's only love, there's only our journey to wholeness, there's only the coming of peace on earth. So from that eagle perspective, we take it in that this whole process humanity has been in is to serve that unity, to coming to realize and live that unity. So we accept our experiences as learning, growing, evolutionary steps on the evolutionary upward spiral for each one of us individually and collectively. And that's trusting a loving universe and our place in it as agents, as aspects of the divine, that the divine is coming to understand itself through our experiences, through the millennia, through everything that's ever happened for all of creation. So that's I just want to put in a vote for what Julie has presented here. Thank you.
And we've not been able to do it in our own organization.
Thank you,
So I'd
everyone.
like to follow that. Go ahead, Judy.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Just listening and obviously always looking in the Mayan calendar to see what's the date that brings us to this moment. And it is the Mayan week of creation, which is 7 Monkey. And the 18th of June is the birthday of the good of the whole, with 11 Imosh, presenting ourselves as the nurture, the mother, the primal waters, the place where gives birth to many things. And the week of weaves. And I heard Dawn spoke about the exchange and, the negotiation and how we have to give something in order to receive something. And the good of the whole is an entity in the Mayan sacred count of days that presents the mother and the place of permeation. And so we're talking about giving energy. And this is what it is, because it's been nurturing us as much as it's been nurturing others. But it also talks about the thread of time and how we're going to also fix these ends and mend this sacred mat that brings us all together to create a beautiful tapestry of time. The thread of all relationships, the thread of all ends coming together. I don't find a better place to fix things than the sacred fire, and really bringing this energy into the true element that can never be contaminated, which is the fire. And really permeating the fields with this energy of purity of intention that each one has, that is been culminating now to celebrate the good of the whole Mayan celebration on June 18, and bringing it and fixing the threads and creating new threads and creatively uniting female and male, because that's what BATS is all about, is the mining state of creativity, creation, intention, weave, and manifesting our true happiness that is creating and manifesting the magnificent essence that each one has. So that is the great opportunity of this moment in the good of the whole, fixing everything that we need to fix for, like Pat says, to take it into the next level and to create other. But we gotta work on our system. And so this is my invitation for everyone, and a great celebration on that weekend of creation, and a weekend of being birthing and allowing our hearts to shed and clear and fix with purity of intention. So thank you. That is my input. Matios.
Okay, background noise and all from Chef. However, I wanted to actually just bring this in, which is from Ken Wilber, and the idea that we awaken in stages: wake up, grow up, clean up, and show up. And it seems that we've been talking a great deal about cleaning up. And what I would like to bring in is the showing up. What I'm interested in is not hearing your pain of personal issues. I've done that in many groups in many years. And what really draws me now is, what are you focused on? What's showing up in your world, and what is it that you are showing up for? And for me, it's the SOS Amazonia, it's the water, the world of water. And last night, Andrew and I had an amazing conversation as an environmental science and chemicals engineer, and being able to really talk about climate change in a way that, what are we doing? What's the possibility? And Andrew and Connie are just very active in working with climate change and bringing people together. What is it that each of us are dedicated to? And for me, the Amazon became so painful to even work on and look at. And then I heard Andrew Harvey say, do what breaks your heart. Do what breaks your heart open and follow that. And what is it then that is that which we can dedicate ourselves to, what we can bring our energy to, that isn't a personal cleaning up anymore, but it's a showing up. What can we do? And since we started this with, what is it, this 7 days of doing? What is it that each of us can dedicate our lives to? And not in a matter of everybody has to do that, but how can we connect it up? And how can we connect others up with and to and through it? And I also just want to bring in my beautiful cactus plant. It only blooms once for 1 day, but it's the most gorgeous flower. This scruffy little, nothing plant. And then one day it blooms, and just for 1 day. Today was the day. Thank you all.
Thank you, Oriana, for showing us that flower. I think that's a sign that it shines, it blooms in 1 day. So why can't we really bloom in 1 week and pollinate other organisms that might be laying dormant, knowing that they will bloom. I love that.
My wife and I have one of those plants that hasn't bloomed yet, but it's interesting. It's also the same story. It blooms once and then it dies, but it casts off lots of little baby plants, and the baby plants can be planted and they grow into this huge thing. This has grown about 3 feet since we bought it. It was about just about so big, and now it's about 3 or 4 feet high. And it's just grown so rapidly. But yes, it is future now. I certainly support that. One of the word changes that we need to make is the change from either or to both and. So I think, Julie, your idea of doing something for 7 days is fine. I'm all for that. And what you're suggesting, the others are the trust frequency, all these things are good. They're worthwhile. It's just that we need to have a plan B and a plan C. I hope your 7-day program, you can initiate it, and I would certainly help and support it. But I'm not too optimistic that in 7 days we're going to be able to get the Chinese to be and who are pretty much under the wraps of a dictator and other people that are going to start following and doing some of these things. So if you have just a small group of people who are ready to and have the power and the ability to wipe out the rest of us, we've got to do something that has a plan B and a plan C. So all of these things, let's go ahead with them. But until we start taking some real actions, as John says, it's a good idea, but even our group isn't here where we're together. I think it starts with learning to love ourselves with the abundance. And most people in the world, in my experience, don't love themselves that way. I think this group has achieved a good bit of that. I think we have a lot of love here, but most people are their own worst enemy. And when you're the own worst enemy, then the other people are enemies as well. So I think the question is, so where would you start then, Julie, with the 7 days? Can you talk about an action step then? Let's not talk about what's a good idea. What's the action step? And unless no matter how much you understand how the light works, unless you go and flip the switch, you're not going to turn the light on. And you don't have to understand all the wiring behind the wall. You just have to know there's a switch there. And unless you turn that switch, which is not that difficult, you're not going to get light. So let's talk about, how do you proceed then? And so it's fine that, somebody says if we all meditate for 7 days, it'll change the world. Well, okay, can we do it? Can we do it in 7 days, or can we do it in a year? If it takes a year, that's still fine. But I'm not sure we're making much headway in that. I think we've made a few steps though. But how long do you think realistically it would take to penetrate enough of the population, particularly those groups that already say that it's their intent to wipe out much of the other population, or you have a religion or a political philosophy that says my way is the only right way, and I'm either have or I'm creating enough weapons that I can wipe out everybody with the flip of the switch. What is the first step?
I think that the first step of if this collective chooses to move forward, the first steps will be very easy to create a 7-day vigil or 24-hour, 7-day event. I don't know if I've heard that enough people on fire about it. Connie went, yes. And then Oriana went back to what breaks your heart open. What are we doing? What are we doing for the Amazon? So I feel like I won't answer that until there's a consensus in the emergent field of what really wants to be expressed during that week, because we have a couple different things out here floating around. So I would love to hear what's resonant for everyone and where we're at. Perhaps it is a 2-hour symposium on cultural relationships and building building relationships. Like, that's very simple versus a 7-day vigil, but I'm open. I'm open. What's the field? How is it speaking through us? Is everyone doing something different? This is fine too. What is that?
I think just creating the seeds for change, going back to 101 and really figuring out how to have a conversation with another human being that may believe something completely different from you, or may come from a place that's completely different than your upbringing, and just going back to having a conversation, being able to come together, even though you may have completely different beliefs. Everybody has something in common. Everybody started someplace similar, even if we ended up someplace different. Just really getting back to creating that conversation and being able to truly listen to one another without judgment and without bringing your own beliefs into it. Just truly listening to where someone comes from and where and what someone else has to say.
Good morning, everyone. This is Claudia. It's interesting because as I've been listening, it feels like we've been kind of like what Julie just said, all over the spectrum from one end to the other. And there's been a lot of really good stuff. And if there's 7 days, what just popped in was, could we not do, kind of like what Nanshini says, the weaving? Can we not weave all of this somehow? And these, we're talking about 7 steps or 7 days too. Well, how about the 7 steps? Can we not start with a meet and greet? Where do we all come from? Where did we all come up with these feelings, these ideas? Who are we? And then, another day, holding sacred space and just in silence, doing the vigil. And another day, honoring where are we going? Where are we moving? So we're actually showing the steps of what we're trying to do. And that way we also honor everyone's ideas, and everybody had a part or a say, because these are building blocks. It is kind of from the start, and it is all the way to where we're going and what we want to see and how we get there. So just kind of my 2 cents that I'm putting in this moment. And thanks for letting me speak, and blessings to you all.
You know what I like about that is that even though the energy field is different than the old paradigm, from where we come from, it really is kind of a top-down model that we use. Those that are unaware are kind of at the bottom, and those that are aware are kind of at the top. And that never has worked and never will. So where do we start in the wholeness of the majority that is not awake, and stay with each other in our wholeness as we allow all of the curds to rise to the top as the cream, which starts with recognizing who and where we are at that level, and then allowing the field to open and generate as we move up and through, just like a plant coming out of the ground on its own. And yet, and I'm just using my personal experience right now of dealing with my family members to try to offer them resonance or anything that we want to call it, because we're already there. There's a huge resistance against that, as if we're trying to take something away from them. And as I look at any of the conflicts around the world, it's like people are, literally defended, stuck in to their place, because there's a fear that that's going to be taken away from them, which, if you look around the world, it is being taken away from them out of that system syndrome. So I really appreciate the idea of, making those initial relationships and honoring where people are at the moment with respect, and then moving on. And I keep going back to Tony Two Cats because I do the same thing. It's one of my greatest joys to just make a contact with one other person and make them smile, whether it's a joke or I'm not a good joke teller, but just a compliment or something as simple as that, and then go from there. And so, you know, maybe each day of 7 days, we climb that ladder together from what is to what's possible instead of, I kind of get a sense that, you know, all of our philosophies and all of what we know about resonance, if we, take that and try to move it into from that space, probably not going to happen as quickly. It's just an idea. Thanks.
We haven't heard from Rose or Shelley. We can open this for a few more minutes if you want to bring your voice in and just create later the synthesis of what's moving here. So yes, Rose.
I just put in the chat the website for worldunityweek.org. So I encourage people to visit that for more information. There's a lot of groups participating in this, I see. And I registered, I gave them my email so that I'll get email updates. So I guess we should all probably register for that, right, Julie?
If you want to individually, yes, you'll get in the loop of things, and absolutely. And there's a lot of different things. So you'll get the whole schedule, which is a plethora of a lot, which, there's so many opportunities during that week. You won't be able to visit everything. You will not be able to visit everything and take in everything. It's like, there's some unified things happening every week with like a main stage kind of thing. But then it's like going to a conference and you go, gosh, I want to go to that session and that session and that session, and they're all at the same time. You'll have that experience too. So thanks, Rose, for putting that in the comments.
And I understand the fire is going to be included somewhere, so people will be able to come and visit our morning fire ceremony.
I am meeting with them later today to look at integrating, if we can integrate the whole connection field in versus individual events from good of the whole, and how we make a smooth transition. And that would definitely include the fire if that's there. And we could literally put separate things in or the entire thing, but we're looking at how to really foster this unity in a greater way. So I'll have more on that later today.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if during that week, will we still do the fire in the same Zoom room that we normally do? Or will we be on a different Zoom room?
Yes.
The same one?
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Same Zoom room.
Okay. And then we make our theme that week unity, perhaps?
That would be awesome. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, we're working on finding some more guest speakers to come to the fire, some new people, maybe some interfaith speakers. Would be great to get some new faces to come and be guest speakers that week, especially. That's our goal.
That would be wonderful. Thanks,
Thank you.
Rose.
I'll share. And it's been really good just to be a listener. And first thing that I'm reminded of is, for about 12 years, put on trainings. But one of the most beautiful things that happened in those trainings was at the end of each training was coming together and sharing what I love about you, whether you knew the person or not. And it was always
really profound as people who didn't know each other could recognize the qualities by just dropping into what's being described here as just this frequency of love, because it will always express itself. And I feel like as I'm listening, that's really the essence, is, well, how do we love more in this world and what's going on in our own personal lives and our own lives as a community and lives as a common universality. And for me, the only thing that's really wanting to be shared is the beauty of the connection field, which, in most of these big events and connecting with Unity Week, and we've done many different things like this over the years, and Unity Week last year. And the beautiful thing about the connection field is there's one link in. And to me, however you use to choose that way in gives a person a place in themselves where they can actually feel and ground and stabilize, because when things are, unity is beautiful, but it's the internal experience of coming home. And I think that's really what every single person, no matter what they're doing, how they're showing up, is that's that sense of why I came here. And I feel like that's, how, I guess the question for me is like, how do we as individuals and community come to that sense of home and feel home? And safety is almost non-existent when I feel like I'm home, when I feel like I've come back to myself, when I can look in someone else's eyes. And like Don was saying, I felt like you gave what's amazing about Don is he's been here since the very get-go of, even before Good of the Whole, with this community or the origins of this community. And that crack in the cosmic egg is, we don't need to describe the separation over and over and over again, but what we do need to understand is, how I like just such a simple way. How do we step out on that balcony together? And to me, that's the beauty of what Good of the Whole, the essence of the organism, speaks to, as each and every person here is experienced. And when it's being shaken because of someone or some things or the world or Pakistan and Israel, whatever it is, micro or macro, it still comes back to, that sensibility of, we call it heart, we've called it heart resonance here, but it's a place of, and I think however the vigil or the 7 days or however you want to do it, for me, I'm really grateful actually not to be a part of anything right now. I have my own focus, but I feel in support of, that communication of what John was describing, that being, and many of you were describing that place of the heart breaking to open, to where I realize, oh, there is nobody out there. It's just me. And it's me with this incredible, loving, intelligent universe that wants to get to know itself. So I'm just grateful to be here and listen to each one of you. And right now, I've talked to Ben and I've talked to John Raymer and let them know, like, I'm not getting networking and doing all that stuff right now, and that's okay. And that feels really good to me. So I'm happy to support in ways that I can without, I think Don always says it great, so give from the abundance that you're already experiencing, give the overflow from that chalice. And maybe we all be doing that. So yeah, thank you for today. It's been beautiful listening.
Thank you for going 25 minutes past our normal time in the coherence call, where you usually by now have transitioned over to John in the Resonance Lounge. And John, that means you have 21 minutes to just kind of keep us in the flow before Grace or Michelle get here, which usually comes at the top of the hour. But yeah, we'll just, I took tons of notes today, and this is a good recording that perhaps we could stick in the digest this week so people could go back and really reflect on all that came through and how it came through and all the voices. It was really rich. There's a lot here. And I do like the idea of, you know, when Kelsey brought back through of the practical how-to, it's like, there's some wisdom there for us of coming back to some of the fundamental basic first steps for all of us, and how to hold that, and how every day could be very different. So I will be looking at the synthesis of how do we pull all that together, what's it feel like, and encourage everyone else to do that too as things pop for you and want to put your voice into this. We do have 4 weeks and 2 days. So the simplicity piece is important. And if we do nothing else but focus all of our offerings in the connection field on unity for that week and the fire every day, it will be enough. It will be enough. So we're good. And we can really expand into something larger if we choose. So, Linda.
So thank you, Julie, for offering to synthesize all of this, because this was an amazing musing of what we can do. And for me, hearing that it's do something is the theme. 7 steps, taking action, what breaks our heart, how do we take that into the world? And that doing can't happen unless we're sure with who we are in our being. So there's that simplicity of just holding the vibration of who we be as loving beings and caring, and that vigil for the world, you know, weaving that in with the doing. So there's a lot to digest from today, and I'm happy to help you synthesize it. I just want to thank everybody for bringing your voice and your wisdom into this. I think I took a lot of notes too, that everything everyone says was so valuable. And I'm glad that we're doing this 4 weeks ahead instead of 4 days ahead. To say, oh, let's pull it together. I think it's going to be beautiful. And with that simplicity and love, we're going to be, you know, we will be part of many. But that's the whole idea of the unified field of World Unity Week. So yeah, do we register as an individual, or does Good of the Whole have a place where we register as an organization, or is that just you, Julie, that would do that?
Yeah, Good of the Whole is registered and is a part of Unity Week, and the partner and all of that's already done. So registering individually, just make sure you get on the mailing list and hear what's going on. So yeah, thanks, Linda. And I would love to learn more from Nanshuni about the Mayan calendar for that. And that was interesting, Shuni, and I would love to hear more, so we're really in complete alignment with our potential. So if you have more wisdom to share, I would love to hear it.
Absolutely, we can share more. You know, Shelley's talking about the organism, and my organism is the womb, is the primal waters of birth. And it is the birth canal of so much, and connects us with the energy of the weave and the father and the mother and the ancestral lineage that weaves together the past, the present, and the future. And so I think, the connection field being 11 Emosh, it's almost like a gate, like an organism that you don't know what it's going to give birth to. So it does has his, like I say, the energy of water, and we spoke about the connection to being, being the wound of the water. And so there's emotions, and there is permeation, and there's projection. But like you say, if we focus on projecting this right now in the most beautiful, harmonic tapestry of time, we really can bring it, and we really can create it. And I think that all of us have been together through a year, seeing the challenges, the struggles, the love, the reunion, the manifestation, the transformation, and it's just magnificent. So I think everyone's showing their magnificent self, fixing the ends and creating another weave. It's going to be really beautiful. But we have great potential for the world, because if we are 11 Emosh, that means that our field is high, and it can project really, really a lot of people. And so I want to put this in the field of everyone, that just, how do we concentrate the energy within ourselves, and then to be able to project it with the really light that we want to be, and the change that we want to be in, and what we want to create in the future has to be coming from the point of really pure intention, if it's going to multiply. So I think that that's the intention, and it's great celebration. It's also a moment for celebrating us. And I think that birthday we can celebrate ourselves, and the accomplishment of being together as a family, as a viral family. So I think that it's really great. And it's the week of creativity and play and inspiration, and coming together as equals. So just gonna put that. Thank you for the opportunity, Julie.
I love all that. Thank you. Because holding that helps with the synthesis of what everyone individually is bringing in. It's just really beautiful. Thank you. Any last remnants from anyone? Well, thank you all. I had a really powerful vision last night, and I'm putting action to the vision, and I look forward to sharing more from that, which may inform some of these steps, because it was really clear and directive. It was like, boom, like, oh, okay, I get it. So hold that vision and my visioning in your positive thoughts and loves and whatever. We'll pursue some of that, which will impact, I know, kind of the how and the why.
Julie, what was your vision?
Well, I'm not ready to share it yet.
Oh, okay.
It's really tender, and it's young, and it's like a seedling. And so I called a fellow visionary of mine to help fertilize and cultivate it to see what that really was. And so I have a meeting later today to hopefully let that really root down deep. And then I'll share more, John. Can't wait to share more. So, but it fits with everything. It fits with this whole hour and 45 minutes, hour and 50 minutes conversation. It fits with all of it. So, yeah. So thank you. Thank you, everyone, for putting your voices in the field today and showing up, putting your faces in. Ms. Amani, I'm so glad you were here, even if you couldn't put your face in. And Claudia, I have to tell you, I loved both of your backgrounds because you went from the flower of life into the heart, and it's like the same portal from a different perspective. I loved that. And it's just nice having you all here. So thank you, even having Randall and Andrew here with us as well in the kitchen. And we're just going to hang out here for 10 more minutes and transition into the Resonance Lounge again gently. So, John, I don't know if you want me to make you a host for 10 minutes, but here we be.
I probably not, in that I have an exact 11 o'clock appointment today, so I'm going to have to leave it just a few minutes early so I can make that transition.
Okay. Well, I will stay on to transition that host as well. I have a 12 o'clock meeting, but I can be a little tardy, so it's all good. Thanks, John. And thank you all. I will put this, Kelsey and I will put this video in the digest this week and encourage everyone to listen and put their voices in and send us some feedback if anything comes from that field. So yeah, thank you. And by the way, yes, Shuni, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Linda.
I was
please.
just, it's Julie. I was just going to announce that you can all get a hold of Kelsey now at kelsey@goodofthewhole.org. She has her official email, so yay. And she will be overseeing the support at goodofthewhole.org too. So if you're used to sending into support, Kelsey can answer support and kelsey@goodofthewhole.org. Yeah, go ahead, Shuni.
Just wanted to know the exact dates for the Unity Week, so I can just check to see what days are being counted in the Mayan sacred count of days. I know for sure our days 11 is the 18th. So it's we should have an amazing celebration. We should have a water celebration also, you know. So
okay, we'll have to talk to you about that. It's like the 18th through the 26th. Is that correct? Anybody have that? I think it is the 18th through the 26th.
What a coincidence.
The 19th through the 26th is what I saw.
The 19th through the 26th? Okay, the 19th through the 26th. So we'll
this,
talk on the 18th.
Yes, I was gonna say that allows us to open up as an orchestra, you know, together. So that's really beautiful. Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
That's cool. Awesome. Tony, how many?
Good of the Whole's birthday is June 18th.
The Mayan birthday is. Our Mayan birthday.
Our Mayan birthday is June.
Mayan.
Okay. For all of Good of the Whole, good of the whole. Well, 18 is the number in the Hebrew alphabet. It is the letter of Chai. So that means life. That means life, like l'chaim, to life.
And
so
emotion.
18 is always, that's a very sacred number because it does mean life.
And it is, Emosh means life. It was the first Mayan glyph ever created. It is the mother of all the energies. It's the energies of the birth canal, the womb, the wetness, the darkness, what is gestating, what is about to come out. And so it's the energy of crocodile too. So crocodile, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's very special and very nurturing and very motherly. And 11 tends to be dissonant and unusual. So teaches us a lot. So 11 is almost like that gate, that door that you don't know what you're going to give birth to. It's one of those things that you can give birth to so many miraculous things. So I think it's a good day for celebration, healing, for manifestation, and to rejoice the emotional beings that we are.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, since you all are here and I don't I'm not host. Blessings to everyone. Love this time with all of you. Love you. And I have to leave. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Tony, can you serenade us out of this hour and into the next?
Sure can. Hold on just a second.
Rose is here too. Rose could serenade us out and into the next too. She could do some drumming. Either, both.
It doesn't really work that well. So try this one.
Yeah, Tony meant if we tried to do it together, it wouldn't work very well because of the delay. So
this is
do it separate.
if we were really good, we could. It'd be a matter of microseconds of timing. We've been practicing, but we're not quite there yet. Anyway, here we go. Can you hear me okay?
Can.
The guitar could be louder. Can you turn it up, the guitar louder?
72 years old and you're asking me to turn my guitar up. Yay!
Still not that loud.
So what?
You got the right microphone on?
Oh yeah, hold on. That probably not. Thank you. Yeah, that was it.
Now the guitar's gonna blast us out since he turned it up.
Okay, let me see here. How about that?
Better.
It's what?
You are on.
That's better.
Okay. If you want to travel fast, you'll need to do it by yourself. The only way to go far is if you have some help. People who feel the same as you about the task at hand and understand how working together can bring about the plan. All of us together form a web of magical delight as we help the world learn to move itself from darkness into light. There's a lot of us, we are everywhere, and we are all standing by to move our love out of our hearts and let the world give it a try. Synergy is more than a word, it's a way of living life. Being able to work with others is a joy beyond delight. We can all do a lot of good working on our own, but when we learn to work together, the collective power is shown. Our energy together is more than the sum of its parts. It's not very hard to figure out. All we need to do is start. Feel the love flowing between us. It goes round and round and will help us with the work we're doing, which is so very profound. Yeah, synergy is more than a word, it's a way of living life. Being able to work with synergy is more than a word, it's a way of living life. Being able to work with others is a joy beyond delight. We can all do a lot of good working on our own. But when we learn to work together, our collective power is shown. When we learn to work together, our collective power is shown.
Hi, Michelle. I asked our musicians to kind of cue us in. So Rose, do you want to play something for us? And then I'll turn this over to Michelle.
Yeah, I could do some drumming if you like.
Beautiful.
Ooh.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. And thank you, Rose. I love that drum. It's like, oh, I just could have more of that, more of that, more of that. Yeah, so cool. I wish I could play one. Yeah, anyway, Michelle, you are now host. I have a 12 o'clock meeting, so I'm going to just gently transition this over to you. We've had a beautiful hour, 2 hours. We had a beautiful 2 hours focusing on World Unity Week and our expression of unity and what is that, and how do we synthesize everyone's ideas of really making a difference for World Unity Week. So that's that. And thank you for being here, Michelle, and always being here, Michelle, and bringing your incredible gifts into the field. I see you more than you see me because I always have that computer on. So I know, but much love. And thank you all for showing up today. Thank you so much. So I'm going to run to my other meeting.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Good to see you. Get a glimpse of you. She really does exist. I know you're there.
She's here. Mwah.
Bye.
Much love, everyone.
Anyone else who needs to